months ago, but his teammates, Tyler Lockett, says, quote, "I expect Russ to be here for the foreseeable future," close quote. Got to bring in NFL analyst, former Super Bowl champion Greg Jennings. I guess once Super Bowl champ, always a Super Bowl champ.
But whose ring is more important, his or Giannis? No. Oh, God.
So, Sal, you up first. Who is more important to the Seahawks' future, Pete Carroll or Russell Wilson?
Man, I flipped on this one. I thought it was going to be Russell Wilson. You dive into the numbers, you dive into the details. You get beyond the mantra of let Russ cook, and you start to realize this is about Pete Carroll. When Pete Carroll did it his old-fashioned way, meat and potatoes, strong defense and running game, they had more success team-wide. When they started to say, hey, Russell Wilson, you have emerged as a star, a superstar with tremendous talent, top 5 quarterback in our league, lead the way. Not the same amount of success. 3-6 in his last 9 playoff games. This same Russell Wilson that wants to cook. And we all know also about his second-half collapses that have happened more than once. So, in summation, it's about Pete Carroll really having a formula, really having a way of doing things that they've gotten away from out of respect to Russell Wilson and his greatness. But that greatness hasn't added up to the same team success that they had before when they did it Pete's way. I think you're going to see either a hybrid version or more of a return to form, the Pete Carroll way, which will ensure more team success.
So I think that Russell Wilson is more important, and I view more important as asking the question, whose absence would be a greater void? If Russell Wilson was gone, Pete Carroll, I don't think succeeds. I mean, he was 7-9 his 2 years as a head coach in Seattle prior to Russell Wilson showing up. But then when Russell Wilson shows up, and it's nothing but success. On average, Pete Carroll wins 11 games with Russell Wilson as his quarterback, and he won 7 games with anybody else as his quarterback. So Russell Wilson is accountable for roughly 4 wins a season. If I take it a step further, I would probably submit that Russell Wilson has saved Pete Carroll's job. Remember, Pete Carroll's a defensive guru, supposed to be a defensive coach, but he has the 11th ranked defense, 13th ranked defense, 22nd ranked defense, and 15th ranked defense in 4 consecutive years. All the while, Russell Wilson kept them winning 9 games, 11 games, 13 games, and 12 games. Without Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll probably hovers around 8, 7, 9 wins annually. And we've seen coaches like Jason Garrett and Marvin Lewis get fired for those kinds of stretches. So Russell Wilson is more important than Pete Carroll, and I would go as far as to say Russell Wilson has kept Pete Carroll afloat.
Yeah, I'm with you, Acho. I wholeheartedly agree that Russell Wilson is more important than Pete Carroll. And it's really simple. There's a quote out there that says, players win games, coaches lose them. If we just look at that, and we look at, I played in Green Bay. Let's take a look at last year when they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You got Aaron Rodgers, you got 4 downs, you decide to kick a field goal. Well, you got one of the best, arguably the best player in the game at that position. Why not use him? This is why players, I believe, at the quarterback position are so important. To your point, Acho, if you take away, if you subtract Russell Wilson from Pete Carroll, you don't have a Super Bowl contending team. And Marcellus, I understand your point of when Pete Carroll had it his way, the success that they were able to have. But what you didn't mention is what's not and what's no longer there. They don't have the Legion of Boom any longer. That defense looks completely different. So you have to go about your work in a different way. And the only way to go about your work is to put together a personnel team that best suits what you are going to try to put out there as a strategist, as a head coach. Russell Wilson, subtracted from all of that, you're not even where you were last year or the year before. And when you look at Super Bowl contending teams in this league, there's the staple. It's a marriage. Totally agree it's a marriage, but you have to have the position of quarterback in place. And Russell Wilson being one of the best in the business, if you take him away from that Seattle Seahawks team, you don't have a chance.
Okay, this is a rigged discussion. I understand why you guys are on that side, and you guys are going to come to understand why I'm on this side. There's no parallel universe, so we don't know what Russell Wilson will look like anywhere else but Seattle. But we have seen Pete Carroll at other places, and we also have seen Pete Carroll in Seattle without Russell Wilson. 7-9 and 7-9, like Acho said. So we're already starting off at different starting points. Russell Wilson just to come in on this clean whiteboard. Meanwhile, you could think of the highs and some of the lows of Pete Carroll. Unfair conversation, rigged from the beginning. Now let's talk about what happened when they got together as a collective. You see 11 wins, 13, 12, 10, 10, like no losing seasons, basically, right? We respect that. However, the only thing I can highlight is why Pete Carroll's more important is when Russell Wilson became important in terms of contract status, things started to change in Seattle. I remind you, when he was on his rookie contract, that means Russell Wilson, meet Pete Carroll on the cheap. 2 Super Bowl appearances, and they won one. Made the playoffs all 4 seasons. So now, you guys are trying to tell me that Russell's more important. Okay, they agree with you. So they give him his first contract extension in 2016 to 2019. 4 years, $87 million. They made the playoffs 3 out of 4 seasons. Already, you saw the playoff dip. Remember? It was 4 for 4. Now it's 3 of 4. Subtle, but take notice. Then they went 2 and 3 in the playoffs. Wait a minute. Did they win a Super Bowl? No. Did they appear in the Super Bowl? No. And then they listened to you guys, and they doubled down on Russell Wilson in 2020, gave him another extension. 4 years, 140. What did that turn into? 12-4 record. And a wild card round loss in the playoffs, where Russell Wilson went 11-27, 40% completion percentage, and threw a pick 6. So every time they say Russell Wilson, we agree with Acho. We agree with Greg. Let's hook them up. Things get worse for everybody else, including, like you said, no Legion of Boom, running game's not the same, defense is not the same, and our success is not the same. I hate to tell y'all, but in that logical equation, sounds like Russell Wilson is the issue.
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
I completely disagree with that.
Okay.
And the reason why is because we're looking at it from a perspective of just solely Russell Wilson and his statistics and what he's able to bring or what you're subtracting. When we look at Russell Wilson, I don't think Acho or myself is saying the key to their success is Russell Wilson cooking. We saw what that looked like. It looks good, but is it sustainable? That story has been played out. It didn't look like it was sustainable as of last year. We will see moving forward to this year. So there is a need for them both. But the most important, the most valuable asset piece to the puzzle in Seattle is Russell Wilson. If you take Pete Carroll away from that team right now, and they are going to play the 2021-22 season without Pete Carroll, we still believe that they are a team that can be a contender. If you were to take away Russell Wilson from that team moving forward into this season, we don't believe that they can still be a contender simply because of the value at that position that he carries.
Interesting you say that, but when Russell Wilson was half of what he is now, they were going to Super Bowls. So do we need all that extra sauce? You know what I mean? Like, waiter, we're good. We don't need all that. Russell Wilson may be doing a little too much and costing them too much in this process. But I hear you, G. Coming up, Cam Newton is the Patriots starter right now. But we'll tell you if that job is his to lose. That's next on Speak for Yourself.